Good evening and welcome. It is All for United. We are back again on the week that Manchester United just completely stuck two fingers up to Barry's social life and said, "You're not having a day off this week, Barry. You can't have one. Just either when you think you can, you can't." And that's Manchester United for you right about now. But the news is confirmed. It's the worst kept secret since my baldness, I think. Ruben Amorim, it was always the top choice, I think, for Ineos in terms of bringing him in, and it's exactly what's happened today. It has been confirmed that Ruben Amorim will be our new manager, taking charge. Well, I say manager, head coach is actually the term that appears to be being used, but that will take place from the 11th of November. But before we kick off about Ruben Amorim, there's been a rather heartfelt message that's been posted literally in the last 10 minutes or so by Eric Ten Hag. And I'm just going to throw it out there because it's the start and not very many people are here. So they can choose to watch this. But if not, just skip forward 60 seconds. You'll miss it if you've already read it. But it says, "Let me start by thanking you. Thank you for always being there for the club, whether it was at a game far away or a tough match at Old Trafford. Your support has been unshakable. The atmosphere at Old Trafford has always been electrifying thanks to you. I felt it many times. Also in away games, it gave the team and me an incredible feeling to hear the United chants taking over the opponent's stadiums, whether the game was in England, Europe, or during the summer tours. I always enjoyed meeting Man United fans throughout the world, walking the streets and being able to chat with fans in England, Europe, Asia, Australia, the USA, who inspired me and radiated a strong sense of unity. And that's what makes United supporters so special. I want to thank you for giving me this feeling and for your support. I also want to thank the staff in every department for their unwavering support in good and bad times. We won 2 trophies. He had to get that in there, didn't he? Achievements I will cherish for the rest of my life. Of course, my dream was to bring more trophies to the cabinet, and unfortunately, that dream has come to an end. I wish all Man United fans nothing but success, trophies, and glory. Your support and the warmth I received from everyone at the club helped me feel at home. Thank you for this chapter in my life, Eric." I don't know what you reckon, Stu, but that's a classy goodbye, isn't it? When you consider how the last couple of weeks must have been for him, and the fact he's had the Daily Mail getting pictures of him when he comes off the plane, as if that's necessary. Brilliant stuff from Eric.
Well, first and foremost, Baz, I can't believe he didn't thank me personally in there. I mean, Jesus, I've been his biggest supporter, as you well know, and
Outrageous.
my old mate Stu. I guess I'll tell you what I'll say about that, Baz. And do you know what? You're absolutely right, because that was no way, in any shape or form, PR led. That was a probably verbalized statement to somebody to jot down and maybe grammarized a little bit, but that was a very personable statement, not a PR led statement. And for somebody who works as a journalist and somebody who works in the education system, you can tell the difference, trust me, between a PR led statement and a personable statement. And to me, that was a very personal set of words that I think he has spoken, and whether it was done in Dutch or English, exceptionally well translated from his voice to our ears. So I would say that, and I think it's I think you're right. I think it's a wonderful, classy statement to sign off in. Whatever the fans thought about him, good or bad, indifference, I always felt that he had the best interests of the club at heart.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was ever, this is all about Eric Ten Hag. I didn't think he got at the players enough for my liking, and I'm completely different to everyone else, but for my liking, I didn't think he got the players enough. And I think the players let him down. And I think the Leicester match epitomised that. Yeah. I was on a show last night and I got, well, I disagree with you on that. And I look, whether people like it or not, I know the game inside out. I know what it's like. I know players think, and they thought and feel that they could get, they've done what they wanted to do. They've done what they set out to do. That's to remove Ten Hag from his position. We've seen it all before, by the way, Baz, as well. Mourinho, Ragnick, Ollie. We've seen it all before. Van Gaal. And I just felt and feel that Ineos have got to get a grip on that more than anything. whoever comes through the door, and we'll talk about Amorim in a few moments. I think they've got to get a grip on the playing personnel,
Yeah,
and have words. Because if I was rude, I'd have walked in there Tuesday morning, and I think I was sarcastically clapped every player that came into the dressing room, and then I'd gone around and sarcastically shook everyone's of their hands, and then I would have launched into an absolute tirade of what it means to be a professional footballer, not just to play for Manchester United, what it means to actually be a professional footballer, and the responsibilities they have. I really feel quite sad and upset about how it's happened. But to be honest, we could see it coming, couldn't we?
yeah.
I mean, we spoke about it last time I was on the show. We could see it coming. So
It was coming a mile off. It really was, and you could see it. Sadly, and nobody wanted to see it. I think we as a channel have been, I think, incredibly supportive of Ten
yeah,
Hag in general. We've not at any point tried to call for all his head. It was really interesting. It's bizarre. I can just remember in the first season that Eric Ten Hag had, and obviously we had a really good first season, and we were doing the keep or sell Twitter poll things, and we were doing really well. And we asked the same question at the end of the season for Ten Hag, not keep or sell, but was it a good year? Was it not a good year? What do you reckon? Effectively, and the Twitter meltdown that nearly caused. People
yeah,
were really, and they were still so scarred, I think, from what had happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the split that was seen to be in the fan base at that point. That it was just really interesting that at that point he was like untouchable, and it just goes to show how time can change things.
yeah,
So yeah, there we go. Well, like I say, Ten Hag, that is a classy statement. We both work within the written media as much as anything else, and absolutely that was why I thought it pertinent
yes,
to bring that up, because it was definitely 100% from the heart there from Eric Ten Hag. And I think he will be missed. I think, like you say, he did have the best interests of the club at heart. But it will be interesting now to see how the new guy gets in. And of course, he will be arriving, as we said, November the 11th. And I suppose the first bit I really wanted to get into with this was the timing and our initial thoughts, because people have been putting in the group chat all day, what do you reckon then, boys? Are we happy? And it's like, I'm not going to pretend that I had a clue who this man was in terms of his management style and all of that sort of stuff before this week. I see a video of him coming off for Cristiano Ronaldo, coming on for Ronaldo, sorry, in a Portugal match. And at no point am I sitting there going, I remember him playing even. So this is not someone who's necessarily been in my sphere. So I'm not going to sit here and say all of a sudden, oh, yes, this is it. He's going to be the Messiah. It's all going to be great. But certainly from the rhetoric that's going around, it is a very interesting situation. The fact that it was allegedly that the potential replacement for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. There's also the news that West Ham did reject him at one point as well. So there's two very contrasting opinions that are being put out there. But he does sound like the kind of person that's going to come out there and give us attacking football. It seems to be his
yes,
kind of thing that he goes for. So for that, I'm very much looking forward to it. Very much indeed. And I agree with this, Enzi. I don't think most people did at all. It's always the expert fans who think, I've been following this guy since he was knee high to a grasshopper. Absolutely. No, you won't behave yourself. There will be some, but whether they're all telling the complete truth or not, I don't know. But the interesting thing for me was the timing. The speed, amazing. It really does make you wonder how much of a conversation has already been had prior to this being announced, obviously, and Ten Hag being sacked. But also the timing. Why today? Why do you think they left it till Friday? They've clearly, over the last few days, been in those sorts of situations where the contracts are ready to be signed, all of those things are ready to go. Why do you think it took till today to officially announce it? Is it just a case of they have to wait for the the I's to be dotted and everything before they can officially announce it, and it just so happens that that's all done today? Or is there a little bit of, you know what, we might just sit on that until this day so that Rude's not getting all the questions about, you know, it being definite, and he can just say, well, you'll have to wait and see, as opposed to just having to field questions about Amorim for the entirety of the press conference? What do you reckon?
So a couple of things, actually. First and foremost, somebody's already mentioned anyway, but the Portuguese stock market would have played a big factor in when they would have announced it. And there's a reason for that. Once they went to stock market to say that they'd accepted, or Manchester United had offered or said they were willing to pay the fee, you've then got to be in constant dialogue with the stock market. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't think West Ham rejected Amorim. I think he rejected them on the basis of this could well happen this side of Christmas. Well, you know, hold your nerve, stand your ground. You're the man we want, etc., etc., etc. I was also on with you guys the beginning of the season, if you recall, and I said to you, our player profile is better suited to three at the back, if you remember. And I explained my reasoning. I spoke about Yoro, I spoke about De Ligt, I spoke about Martinez, I spoke about Garte playing in front of them and the ability to interchange with Yoro if Yoro was to bring the ball out the back. Now, I saw that back then. And I'm with you, by the way, Barry. Let me be very, very clear about this. I had no idea Agarte played for Amorim. And I didn't know that Amorim's perfect system was three at the back. I had no clue. And if you remember our conversation when I was talking about it, I got rinsed. If you also remember in the comments over it, I got absolutely rinsed. You were like, okay, I can see it. I don't expect it. And so I didn't know that Agarte played with Amorim in that particular system. Now, I was going with a 3-5-2. Amorim plays a 3-4-3. So now that is not surprising to me. It's understandable to me. So I think there's a lot of pegs that have been gently put into place over a period of time to lay way for maybe somebody like Amorim. Maybe not him in particular, but maybe somebody like him. If you were to check his record, like everyone has, Baz, everyone's done that. Yeah, sorry, it's true. But I wasn't really listening to it really. I numb out on stuff like that. And so when you, because I don't follow Portuguese football for a start anyway, but like everybody else, I've listened to what he's done. I listened to his short stint at Benfica, winning the cup in his first couple of months at Benfica. And then he's obviously won the Portuguese title with Sporting Lisbon in the past 2 seasons. They've scored 30 goals this time and, I don't know, conceded 2 at this point. What happens tonight, we don't know. But whether people like it or not, the Premier League is a different animal. And we've seen, and Manchester United, by the way, is a different animal. And we've seen plenty of top manager with a real decorated history of winning Premier League titles, getting into World Cup semi-finals, doing things that most people wouldn't have imagined. But yet it's no different to what he does. And interesting enough for me, Baz, was that Jarvis put on a couple of weeks ago, he put on a thing about Amorim and said, well, look, this is how he likes to play between the lines. And I said to Jarvis, I said, well, Van Gaal did the same with Fellaini. I know Fellaini is a different type of player. But do you remember when he identified playing between the lines and Fellaini would get this pocket of space? Well, that's exactly how Amorim plays. And I made the point in that time that it doesn't really matter which league you're in, what type of manager you are. There's only a finite amount of space that is going you can have within the circumference of a pitch. And so, look, should I be excited? I don't think you can get hugely excited right now. I think there's a lot of people that will, and you're right. There's a lot of people that claim to know everything there is to know about Amorim and what he's going to bring. But he's going to, he may well get us to top four this season, Baz. We may well win the Carabao Cup this season.
Do you think there's a level of truth in what Daz has put here? Ugarte's now clear and obvious. Also explains why Ten Hag didn't want to play him. Do you think there is a bit there that they bought Ugarte because they were preparing for the next manager? Or is that far too cynical for you to imagine? Because part of me can see the argument, but part of me would feel really bad if that is actually the case. Because although there's some serious forward planning going on there, that means you already knew that you were going to be getting Ten Hag some point soon, which makes the whole extension just pointless.
It's a bit too Hollywood for me. However, let me be clear, Daz, on this, pal. Football is an absolute rotten cesspool, and it would not surprise me if when Ashworth and whatever Harada said to him, look, probably before Christmas, Amorim's going to be in, or somebody is going to be in that's going to know how to utilise you. Would you not play him, Ten Hag? You know what? You have to utilise everybody at your disposal. But there would be people say, big up Marco, there would be people say that, he's not been playing Ahmad. Look what Ahmad can do. He hasn't been playing X, Y, and Z. Well, he's quite stubborn. We know that. But then he stopped playing Anthony. So, maybe he wanted a system. But
I'd like to think that NT's right here. He wasn't really performing in the first couple of appearances.
And he wouldn't do.
Results being poor. It's more likely it was a decision based on form. And I genuinely hope and pray, actually, NT, that you are correct. Otherwise, it really is.
I didn't know he played for Amorim, by the way, Baz. I didn't know if I mentioned that. I didn't know if he played for Amorim. I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier on in the stream. Sorry, I'm just on the cheeky blast.
Seems like the sort of thing that should have been mentioned if it hasn't already, Stu. That's for sure. Maybe just later on in the show, just in case.
Rewind it back.
Let's think about this logic now. He's going to walk in through the door November the 11th. The international break will have started. So we'll be in a situation where he's able to come in, get a couple of weeks to, set up his desk, get his favourite pens out, put them in the right spot, do all of that sort of stuff. Try and make the place his before everybody turns up. Once he's got those jobs out of the way, settling in, the first job, what's it going to be? I mean, I've been trying to think about this all day. If you're the manager of Manchester United and you get in there, and I think you might have alluded, you said what you would do in terms of going around the dressing room. But if we're looking to be helpful towards the squad and we're looking to start on a positive tack, what's the first thing that he's got to do? Because for me, I think the first job he's got to think about are the wings. He's got to, if he wants to do this wing back situation, which he might well do, he can't do that with the players that we've got available at the moment. Correct. He just can't. You could argue he could put a Garnacho on the left and try and use them, but I feel like that takes away from what Garnacho's main thrust and focus is, which is his attacking play and what he does up the top end of the pitch. He doesn't really want to be racing back. We know Anthony doesn't really want to be racing back. So you're kind of going to want your players like Dalot, your players like Mazraoui. I feel like his first job has got to be to either identify whether or not Harry Amas is a player who could do that for the short term, or he's got to start working out, right, who is it going to be? If I can't get them in at Christmas, after Christmas, obviously, but if I can't get them in then, who's my summer targets and what do I do in terms of going there? Because if he says, this is my system, this is what I'm going to set up, and this is how I'm going to play, so yes, I'm going to be putting Dalot left back and Mazraoui right back, and yes, he's going to be absolutely atrocious for a season. I know that, you know that, but what else would you like me to do? I mean, I can stick somebody else there if you want. Perhaps we'll stick Johnny Evans there just for a giggle, and you can see how he gets getting absolutely blasted for pace because the poor man's, getting on a bit. But if he was to do that, that makes sense. As long as we know he's got his eye on it and he's starting to think about that is key for me, because it's not just about the defensive unit there, it's about then the transition, getting the ball up the pitch. So that to me would be the first job that I think that Ruben Amorim has to do. But what would it be for you? If you were walking in, if you were Ruben, what would be your first job?
48 hours ago, when all this was going on, and his discussions with Manchester United maybe over a period of time, he would have suggested straight away what bargaining chips Manchester United will need to shoehorn 2 or 3 of his current players out of their club, whether it's in January, whether it's in the summer. So I can tell you now that's in. That list is in. Secondly, he should have had a teams meeting, external teams meeting with the first team squad by now already, and laid down. I made it very, very clear there is no honeymoon period for me. This is what I expect. This is what you're going to do. This is how I want you to go about it. Secondly, he should have pointed out that I need each and every one of you over the next few days to study how I play, to understand how I play. So when I get into Carrington on the first day, on November the 11th, 12th, or whenever it's going to be, and we get to work, you will know how I want you, where I want you, and how it's going to be. And that to me is just basic management. That's what I would be doing. But his problem and his challenge right now is he's got to do that outside of his current duties with Sporting Lisbon. And he's got City coming up next week in the Champions League. And that's what they really want him for. They want him to beat City. That's what they want. So every minute he's not working on Sporting, he must be working on the club. He must be working on Manchester United. The players themselves are lazy bunch of players that we have, Baz, should also have that knowledge and that nous to understand who this guy is, to understand who his coaches are, to understand what it requires to be a Ruben Amorim player. And so you get on the phone to your mates at Sporting and you try and find out what it is. And then when he arrives, when he touches down and he sets his pens up in his desk, he can just walk down to training and there is already a synergy. So there's no dicking about for an hour. This is what I want. This is what I need. You've got to put all that to bed before you come. And then you get on with it. So it's down to work the minute he walks through the door. And if he hasn't done that, then maybe he's not the person we need.
Yeah, well, maybe. Okay,
Just maybe he's not the person we need.
Very interesting seeing how you're going. And I completely agree with Daz here. This week's been a whirlwind. We're not used to this pace. Totally agree. It has absolutely flown by on that one. Mark said, what about Murray? He's actually better than Amas. I mean, to be fair, he's only just quit tennis, so I'm not really convinced we want to be sticking him out into left back. But, you do you, if that's what you want.
Mark's very well. He's got a lot of knowledge about the youth.
It's exactly what I mean, though. Go out there, have a look, decide who could play in the situation, who is actually a left back, and give them a go. Like, what is the very worst that could happen? I would argue they cannot possibly go on there and do any worse than anybody else we have put in that position as yet. You might find a gem.
So going back to what you said, though, and you're the only one that's discussed it, and that is you can't roll into Manchester United tomorrow and play 3-4-3. You can't do that. Because who do we trust out wide, specifically on the left? Now, I hear, and I've read like everyone else today, that Malacia, who looks quite beefy, by the way, from what I've seen, and Luke Shaw are aiming to be ready for Ipswich away, Amorim's first game. aiming to be ready. How miraculous is that by Luke Shaw?
Yeah.
Aiming to be ready. Malacia, we can deal with. We know he had complications, but all of a sudden, Luke Shaw, I should be fit in a week or two. Where have you been all season?
Well, exactly.
You know, so that will be interesting. Now, we do know that a fit Luke Shaw and a Mazzari, possibly not Dallo for me, Mazzari, would be a brilliant addition out wide. We both, I think, would agree on that, wouldn't we? And then the interesting thing would be is where, what will he do with that middle four that I would class as the middle four? Because I think we're going to, no, neither do I, Mark, by the way, but I think we're going to see Agate in at the 6, say Bruno in at the 8, maybe Hoyland as the 9, and then the 2 around him. What will he trust? What will he need from, say, a Rashford and a Garnacho? And we don't know that. So I agree with you, Baz. I think the challenges are the two wing backs.
It is at the moment, absolutely. And yes, Mark, I do know that other left backs are available, 100%. Amas has been one of the ones that's been widely mentioned across all forms of media, though, hence why I said his name first. But yes, of course, that's what I'm saying. There are lots of people that he could potentially run the rule over, and a lot of, I wouldn't say hate for Luke Shaw, but 100%. The guy has not been available. He's not going to be fit. So it's going to take him a while to get match fit, and then he'll just get injured again. Probably he's like
Absolutely
the defense at the minute. Well, I was going to ask what will change, but to be honest with you, I think we've covered that. So my next question comes down, because you brought this up already, is the players, and how they might react. I mean, there's been a bit going in here. JJ saying he has to be ruthless with some of these players. It's very interesting. Like, I don't believe that any player ever goes out there and doesn't want to play. Rashford is the one that seems to divide opinion. I can't quite understand it. Of all of the goal involvements under Eric Ten Hag, Marcus Rashford has the most.
Yes,
Also,
he does.
Fernandes, they're the top 2. Yet they're the 2 names that I see constantly being told, well, just get them out of the club, sell them maybe, we don't need them. And I find it bizarre, because if you take Rashford and Fernandes out of this team, we probably will get relegated, because we're barely scoring as it is. So where are we going to start getting goals from if we just randomly take out probably our 2 most creative players, even if they're not necessarily firing on the cylinders that we have seen them fire before? So there's a lot of talk about this 3-year cycle, the problem that seems to happen. It's almost like we could sit here and guess what's going to happen. We can watch what's going to go on this season. We're going to see a bit of galvanisation, and it might well be a real end of the season. Maybe we go and win a trophy. Everybody starts sitting there thinking, well, that's it. Then we're going to build on this next year. And then we're going to be middle of next year, towards the end of next year, asking the same question. Is that what we think is going to happen with these players? So they just have to work hard and then they get comfortable? It can't just be that. Surely, over the course of 10, 11 years now, it can't just be that these players are just like, we're going to try hard for a season and then we're just not for another season. No. That doesn't make, like, you're a footballer. You could never do that. I could never do that.
No, absolutely.
You never put yourself into a position where you just go, do you know what, lads, we don't fancy it.
I think it's a really good question.
About the players this season is what I'm trying to get at here.
No, I think it's a really good question, and a question that really should have been asked years ago. You're absolutely right. I look, for me, Innes have got to show the same ruthlessness with the players as they have to with the management and the backroom staff and the staff at Old Trafford. You can't just be ruthless in and around and then forget the real problem child, which is the players. Now, I'm with you, by the way. I take the pitch on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning, depending when we play, and I give absolutely everything because I love the game. I love to be competitive. I absolutely adore getting stuck in. But yet, there are players that just seem to go through the motions. Now, unfortunately, and I know you're a big fan of Bruno, and I'm not digging him out here, but tell me the last 6 weeks, when did he perform at the level he did Wednesday evening?
I think he had the effort. You go into the Fulham
He had the
game,
effort, but
he
the
definitely
real
had it in the Fulham game,
intelligence,
just didn't have the finish. He had a
yeah,
couple of
which
opportunities.
we know he's
And he
got, don't
did. And again, I mean, you say fan of Bruno. I mean, I am a fan of all
No,
the players.
you are, yeah, I know you are, yeah.
But I mean, I can recognise he's not been at the level. But how can I word this? If you were, and I apologise for the image, but if you were to take a dog poo and you were to roll it in glitter, the glitter would still be glitter, even though that's where it is.
Yeah,
And I, in the nicest possible way, that's kind of what I'm trying to say here about Bruno Fernandes. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
not looking great, but of that not looking great, he's still the best of what we've got to offer.
He has been, and he's been at that level. But I was talking last night, and I said that a team that would fluff 50 chances over the past 8 weeks, okay, and all of a sudden we can pop 5 in the back of the net. Forget Barnsley, just forget it. You know, Barnsley's a different game. We all loved how we played against Barnsley, didn't we? I remember being on with you after that game. We all loved it. We were raving about it. Garnacho somehow managed to finish. Now, forget Casemiro's opening goal. It is what it is. That, yeah, sometimes they go in, sometimes they go. Casemiro suddenly finds himself at the right place at the right time for a tap in. Bruno going round the goalkeeper, showing the composure that we know he's got, and then almost took the piss putting in the back of the net. Why the fuck didn't he do that against Palace, against whoever? That's what I'm pissed off about. It's not the fact that he's not put the effort in. That if I was in that dressing room, and I know Mark will probably smirk at this, you'd have asked the question, what the fuck are you doing? Why didn't you do that 6 weeks ago? Why suddenly can you just pirouette around the goalkeeper, take the piss out of the defender on line? What the fuck didn't you do that 6 weeks ago? And that's the problem.
Genuinely, do you think, and I'm not saying this tongue in cheek, we know they're paid a lot of money, but do you think the pressure is getting to them at times? Do you think for someone like Bruno, he clearly likes the guy in Ten Hag because he's giving him everything he wants. Do you think there's almost that element of you trying too hard because you're so desperate, you push it, and so actually you take away your natural ability and your composure because actually
Yeah,
you're trying to force the issue? And as we all know,
yeah,
when you try, how often do we have to say that to players on the pitch? Calm down, just play your football. Stop trying to force the issue. It will come. But they never do because they're losing 1-0. So they think, I'm just going to try that Hollywood ball. I'm just going to try that. Do you think that was
again, a great point.
too?
Yeah, a great point. Because I've done it myself. Right, I've done it myself in games where I've missed a header, I've misplaced a pass. I'm fuming with myself. So I take 5 minutes out of the game, Baz, because if I don't take 5 minutes out of the game, and I'm not saying I shy away from it. If the ball comes to me, I deal with it. But what I do is I knock it 2 yards, and then when the ball comes back to me again, I knock it 2 yards until I get myself deep breath, regain. If you don't do something like that, if you haven't got the mental agility and ability to do that, you'll get the ball and you'll ping it 40 yards because you don't want to hit your feet. You don't want to hit your feet. You're scared of making that mistake. So you're absolutely right. The pressure has got to some of our players. But I think you would agree that it shouldn't be getting to Bruno. It shouldn't be getting to Rashford. It shouldn't be getting to Martinez. It shouldn't be getting to Ericsson. Players that have been around the block, high-level international footballers who have been in white-hot atmospheres all over the world. It should be second nature. Now, everybody can make a mistake, and I get it. But we always said about Scott McTominay, when he made that mistake, he'd go missing. He wouldn't even show for the ball. He would go missing. Bruno shows for the ball, but he tries a Hollywood ball. Instead of taking it and running 3 yards with it, 4 yards, 5 yards with it, he'll go with a Hollywood ball. So as far as I'm concerned, please don't take this to anything that it's supposed to mean. Best question of the night. It's the best question of the night. And nobody's ever asked me that question before. about pressure with footballers, because I do get it. And most people would say, if I said to my son, 23 years old, oh, fucking hell, what do you mean pressure, Dad? Fucking piece of piss. And I would normally say that, but I understand it by back playing again. Because when did I retire? I retired at 47, 48 from 11-a-side football. And I was playing at a decent level, West Midlands level at that time. And I'm just back playing, as you know, it's my second season, but full season back with Tipton. And I still have to think sometimes what I'm doing. When I've won a header in the first 30 seconds, Baz, or I've put a good challenge in, I don't have to think, if that makes sense. I can just get on with the game. I've done what I needed to do to get myself sorted. I get on with the game. So it's a really good question. I've been asked that before.
I mean, it's interesting because people like JJ are saying they're professional athletes, and Mark saying the same manager backed all of them through each rubbish performance. What pressure? Not from Ten Hag. I'm not suggesting the pressure was from Ten Hag. I'm suggesting the pressure is coming from the fans, from the board, and that actually it's not the pressure on the player. Because if there's one thing we've learned over the last 10 years, the players are so well protected, they're not going anywhere because they're still here. But what I'm getting at is there a level of pressure on them? Because I don't think any of us looked at the performances of Man United this season and have said they've down tools or they're not playing for the manager. We've made more chances almost than any other side. We're second in terms of that. So actually the fact that we've achieved that but not scored them has to come down to something. And the fact that the pressure was off is that actually they don't need to try and save Ruud van Nistelrooy's job.
Yeah.
But they were trying to save Ten Hag's maybe. So I don't know. It's a different thought, a different opinion.
Can I just quickly add?
I just tell Brian Knight what he's missed, which is that Manuel Ugarte apparently used to play for Ruben Amorim.
And I didn't know that. That was news to me. Brian Knight. Amazing to have him back, Anthony, for ages. It's great to see you back. I would like to touch on JJS's point. They're professional athletes. Again, that is a really top point, because when you're training now, when I started playing in the 70s and the 80s, we were coached, we were genuinely 100% concentrating on football. Now you've got to concentrate on your fitness, what you eat, how quickly you can run 100 meters, how your actual pace of 10 yards, what your burst of speed is. Can you catch somebody? These guys train from, they let a player go 20 yards and they see how quickly you can catch him, or if you don't catch him, and they measure your time. All of that is unbelievable. So JJS is right. They're footballers, but they're professional athletes, and you're having to mix and match now how you train. Really interesting. Really. Oh, he played with Linda Loughlin.
Who's Linda? What's she got to do with anything?
Well, that's it. Who's Linda, Daz? Who's Linda? So again, a great point by JJ. Actually, some really good points in the chats tonight, Baz. Some really good points.
We're working on it, and lots of people watching. So if you haven't already, I'm going to throw this one up there. Please do like and subscribe.
Yes, please.
If you're around here. To be fair, I'm really down to just two more questions. The first one is a quick fire one. Very quick fire on this one. Ruud van Nistelrooy is obviously in charge at the moment. I've been trying to decipher his press conferences, because there's been a lot out there about I'm just here to help the team, I'm ready to work in any capacity. I almost feel like, and I hope I'm wrong, but I almost feel like he knows that he's not going to be here at the end of 10 days because people are being brought in, and or at least not in the position of assistant manager. Like, there's going to be a change to the role that he's supposed to do, because if Amorim's bringing his own backroom staff in, he may well want to just keep that. So I'm not saying that he won't keep Van Nistelrooy around, but it could be a bit like, Mike Phelan was kept around for a bit and then eventually he was shown out the door, that type of thing. I don't know, but I just wondered what you think and what sort of vibes you're getting about Van Nistelrooy. I hope he stays, because I think it's lovely having him here, but I don't know. It's just that every time I listen to him speak, it's almost like he's pleading. What do you think? I don't know.
No. I think I agree with you. I'm kind of with you. I don't believe he'll be here. I think Amorim will probably have turned around and said, "Look, if you want him to stay, this is going to be his role under me. Yeah, but if you don't want him to stay, I don't want him to stay. Pay him off." I think it's a really difficult one for him. I think it's Rene Hacker's probably the writings on the wall for him. He probably already knows it anyway, Rene Hacker. I think the writing's on the wall. He'll get paid off. He'll get quite a nice sum of money. I think Rude. I think Rude moves on. Yeah, I do. I agree with the consensus on that one. I also think that if he does stay, he could end up at a capacity around the 23s. I think that would be his option, or I think he moves.
Fair enough. It doesn't need to be kept. Maybe you probably don't know me very well. I have what can only be described as a nostalgia problem, and the fact that he used to play for the
Yeah,
club. I love that little way that history runs through the club. So I just like the fact he's around. I loved it when we had Nicky Butt come in and Paul Scholes was around for a
exactly.
bit.
Yeah,
I just like it. I like the fact that Darren Fletcher's still around the club. I like having that. It's the same with Mike Phelan. He hung around after playing in the 80s and 90s as well. Brian Kidd, obviously coming back. I love that sort of thing. So that's the only reason.
and he's rinsing you here, Baz.
Yeah,
Back in the
so here
war.
he is back in the war. Absolutely, exactly that. NC. So just for you,
Yeah,
there it is. That's my back in the war moment. It's
he's
just nice.
rinsing you
And let's
there.
be honest, it'd be lovely to see us play Arsenal again. I'd love to see if he could see Martin Keown again at some point. Um,
Oh
but,
yes.
last question, and it's a simple one, and I'd love to see what people in the comments are saying here. I've been asking myself this question as well a lot today. When he comes in and the season is done, what would we say is success for Ruben Amorim? We get to the end of the season, what is it? And I've been struggling with this. I don't think giving him the metric of you must be in top four, that would be amazing if we've done that. But that on its own, is that success? I feel like it's the obvious thing to go, if you can win a trophy, that's success. I'm just not convinced I know, really. I feel like success would be seeing movement towards playing the way he wants to play and putting players into a position and keeping them there, not just constantly chopping and changing, getting a sort of a settled 11, so that we know this is generally our first 11 and where we are, so that we know he knows that. Um, yeah, I think if we finish top six and we have, I won't say win a cup, but a good cup run, that to me would feel quite successful considering where we are. What do you reckon?
Good question. I would look at it slightly differently. In as much as if again, if I was to put myself in his shoes, what would I be looking for? And it's very, very simple. I would want 10 straight Premier League wins. That would be my target and my goal this season, because that's going to take you somewhere. Now, where it takes you to the end of the season, I don't know. But 10 straight Premier League wins is going to galvanise the whole club. It'll galvanise the fan base. It will galvanise the players. And it will give you something to hold on to. If you go and I understand your point, but if you go and say top six in a cup, what if you don't get top six in a cup? But what if you did 10 straight wins? So for me, if I'm walking through the door, I'm looking at 10 straight Premier League wins. That's all I'm looking at. And I know it sounds a bit low key, but tell me the last time we had 10 straight Premier League wins.
I wouldn't say it is low key. I mean, Mark's put in here, why are we trying to quantify success in a rebuild rather than considering progress? I think what you've missed there is that if you are considering progress, that is still success. You're still saying that's success. That's exactly what I'm asking. What is success for you at the end of the season? If you're sitting there and saying, well, actually, if I can just see there's some progress in the team, but as you all know, because you're clearly a smart man, you've got to have targets. And
Yeah.
whether or not you're hitting those targets is how you get success. You can't just sit here and say, oh, well, it's all about rebuilding. well, how do you've got it? There's got to be a level of success in your rebuild. It could be that you just want to finish top 10. It could be that you, like you just said, 10 straight wins, 5 clean sheets in a trot, something like that. It could be, there's 101 different metrics that you could use quite easily to measure what you think success would be for the season. That's what I mean. For me, I think success, if in terms of at the end of the season, looking at something, would be amazing. But I'm not going to sit here and say we finished 7th and we're knocked out of all of the cups that he's unsuccessful. I think, I disagree. I don't think it does change the tone to more of a must than rather than metrics. I think with anything you would look at, this comes from the football manager generation. It really does. When you get yourself a job on Football Manager, what's the first thing they tell you? You're looking for a top 4 finish in that one. You've got to qualify for Europe, or you've got to win the FA Cup. You've got to reach the League Cup semi-final. All of those sorts of things. It's just personal to each other,
Yeah.
And I think we should be getting ourselves to, what's the word? Choppy with each other on that one. Brown Knight, he's having to go at me nostalgia. It's not a good enough reason. I probably not. But again, just I like him, and I'm not being funny as well. He is the best finisher of all that we've had at the football.
Oh, okay. Well, he's my number 1 striker, as you well know.
Teach our attackers,
yeah, he's my man.
Something before Leicester, didn't he? So there we go, Mark. I've been arguing that we've been in a rebuild for the last, literally since the start of this season. I was asking for this measurement of where's the progress going from that, and we didn't get it. So, listen, I'm with you. You're not going to catch me sitting here going, we didn't finish top 6, get rid of him. Shan't be happening.
No, yeah. I mean, when we spoke about it in the summer, we had a team meeting. We said, what are our, where do we want to be this year? And I always say, tongue in cheek, want to win the league. Because you should always say that. Anyone who plays football should always say, I want to win the league. That's it. But realism sets in. And if you can win, I don't know, 65, 70% of your matches, it's going to take you somewhere because results balance the league out. And that's all that's what I'm looking for. And it does. I mean, Daz, I agree with you. But if we could get 10 straight wins, and I did say that under Eric Ten Hag, by the way, when he first joined. He needs 10 straight wins. And the manager needs 10 straight wins. Look at what Emery was able to achieve. I'm not saying he had 10 straight wins, but he had 6 to 7, when he took over and he pushed Villa out of the... Were they bottom 3, were they, or something, when he took over from Gerrard, or close to the bottom 3, weren't they? And he pushed them up to 4th throughout the league because he got a springboard. If we can get a springboard, and 10 is, by the way, difficult to achieve, I understand that, guys, but I'm talking about a springboard, and that's what I'd be looking for. If I was Amorim, that's all I'd be focused on.
I agree. Looking over here as well, scoring enough goals is a huge problem, so a new solid structure is key.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it. Let's get strikers to get over 10 goals or something. This one, it's just a question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's always
I'm a million miles away from deciding what success is for this season because I need to start seeing how they're going to perform with him. Maybe it's a question that we'll come back to around about Christmas time and beyond once we've seen a little bit of him. But there we go. Well, that's it. We said it was going to be short form. We were aiming for about half an hour. We've managed to go a little bit deeper with that. It's been a conversation. It's been brilliant listening to everybody. I think this is, Daz, a perfect way to end it. Exciting times again. I really hope that you are right. Stu, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
I enjoyed it. Pleasure.
Appreciate it for you jumping on. And thank you everyone who's come in on the chat as well. It's been, like I say, really, really enjoyable. Cheers, Mark. Thanks for all of you
guys.
And you, JJ, as well, and everybody else who has joined in. I suppose the last thing to say, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. What? Team poll? Like the stream. Yeah, okay. It's only fair for the quality. Thank you for the last bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. That would be
Cheers,
Sue.
Mark.
Nice one, Mark. Nice one, everybody. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Pleasant weekend. We'll be back Sunday after the Chelsea game, where hopefully we're celebrating a second win for Rude Van Nistelrooy. In case you haven't heard it already, Rude Ball gives you wins. See you later.